Good evening for most of you out there. Thanks for tuning in. We are here at Live Reality Games here on YouTube, also streaming live on Facebook as well. And speaking of streaming live on Facebook, there is a great event happening right now in the live reality game world called Survival Challenge. It's been streaming for the last few days. Contestants play, they survive out in the woods, they play team building challenges, basically Survivor. And we're going to be recapping what we've seen so far. My name is Dustin, and we are joined with one of our podcasters, Destiny. Destiny, how you doing?
Hi, everyone. I'm doing great.
Destiny got to have some time actually on the field of Survival Challenge just recently, which we'll get into. And Steven, another one of our podcasters and a Survival Challenge vet from 2018. Steven, how are you?
I'm doing well. It's fun watching the game. I didn't go far in my game, so it's fun seeing all the chaos and the merge unfold from afar.
Someone that did get a little further than you, we are joined here with special guest tonight, Desiree. Desiree, how are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Des, how did you do in 2018?
I was 9th, so I was the first jury member.
And that
merge boot.
And that kind of picks up exactly where we are right now. We are in day 4. We just got to merge. If you are still watching right now, all the events should be done for tonight. However, they're going to pick up tomorrow at 8. So in general, we've only been seeing the live streams, and then the Destiny was there for a little bit watching yesterday. So we have a little bit of insider scoop. But folks, what do we think about the season so far? 24 contestants. I was super excited to see, especially Jake. Jake M played in Ohio Time and Change, College Survivor. Big fan of that show and a big fan of him. Steven, who were you looking forward to after seeing the big cast?
So I played with Jake Sparks in Surviving Reelfoot in 2019, and I kind of was a frenemy with him. I tried to get him out, then I tried to work with him. So we had a roller coaster with each other. So I was really hoping he would do well and get his feet under him this game, and it really seems like he has. And then learning that Holly, who is Survivor royalty from Survivor Maryland, as well as Sequester Season 1, it's hard not to root for her after watching her play several seasons, being a huge fan of the game she's played then. So I'm fascinated to see how far she'll go here, and if I think the host Survivor Maryland was in Survival Challenge 2017 and went pretty far, so I'm curious to see if she'll do better than him.
She's doing real good so far. Des, any instant favorites when you saw the cast?
Oh my gosh. You're going to laugh at this, but my favorite person was Stu. And I'm only laughing because he was the first one out, but I loved what he said. He said, I've been getting to know people this past year virtually. Imagine what I can do outside in real life. And I just thought that was really funny. So I immediately just loved him. I never played a reality game before going to Survival Challenge. I didn't know the LRG world before applying and going. I had no idea what I was getting into at all. So my favorites are just those people who literally are like, what have I entered? What is this brand new world? So those are the people that I kind of look out for.
Yeah, I love the random signups too. When we're casting and taking applications, those are the people that are really my instant favorites too, to see. Just some random person, some farmer that's like, hey, this sounds fun. I can survive out in the woods. Let's give it a try. Destiny, how about you?
So I actually seen the cast when I arrived on site, and it was kind of by design. I wanted to be surprised when I got out there. I made it for the first tribal council. And then I got to see that Jake Spark was out there. He was my partner in Mayhem Manor. So obviously, I don't care what he does, whether he's a villain or a hero, I'm going to be his loudest silent fan, because you try to keep very straight-faced when you see anyone. And then Jamie, who unfortunately went out how he did with kind of the dynamic on his tribe and his little bit of an outburst. And I was like, that's Jamie for you. And Jamie and I played in the game. He did go out with some fireworks, but When
Just
you're
a bit.
rooting for somebody, sometimes you want them just to shut up. I'm like, shut up, sit down. It's okay, just sit down. And that is not his style, but so that is who I'm rooting for. I'm still rooting for him. And then getting on site, you kind of get to see people's personalities, and you get to see and start rooting for there. And so, like, I was screaming for Grace. I thought Grace was excellent, and I was rooting for Holly. Literally at every single tribal, every single challenge she did, because you could just see the fight in her. So I hope that Holly goes really far in this game, because I think at this point she's probably had the hardest journey, just emotionally, on kind of getting into day 5.
Mm-hmm. And looking forward to day 5 is going to be pretty spectacular. We have made it to the merge. We've already started our jury. 2 people on jury so far, I think, if I'm looking at the notes. Kirk is chiming in. Kirk is a live. He's the podcaster covering Survival Challenge this year with Sam, and they're doing a fantastic job. I really feel like the dynamic of Sam plus Kirk are doing a fantastic job, and Kathy on occasion chiming in with some comments. Destiny, but all of us have been there before, and this is your first time there. What was your experience arriving at the place?
Okay, so, like, you show up and there's cars everywhere in this huge property, and I was almost overwhelmed. It is huge, and you're like, what on earth is going on? And when you finally walk back in and you get to the part, it's a great setup, and it very much feels like you were just transformed into what you would think, minus the ocean and the beach and the sand, kind of tropical-esque vibes, because we're in Illinois. It was very interesting to take, and when I actually came home last night, I was talking to my husband, and I was like, there's my new dream. And he looked at me like I was crazy. I was like, I want to have property. I don't want to be a farmer, but I want to have property where people can come play Survivor on my land. And we just have all these people playing Survivor all of the time over here. And he was like, no, absolutely not. This is insane. So if you ever get a chance to go out there, especially if you're a fan. I've said it 100 times. I'm not a huge Survivor fan. I'm a fan of the game, not so much like, hey, let's camp outside. Let's see if we can survive this. It was fantastic. It's fantastic to watch. The people are amazing. And you can just tell that the contestants truly want to play the game and truly want to be there.
Well, let's jump in. Like, the challenges go on. We have some vote outs. We do have a fantastic spreadsheet helped from the community. We have a group chat. And kind of Adam's doing a lot of the work. So Adam, props to you for keeping track. He does a great job for Reelfoot as well. Just going to share the screen here. So lots of data that we are looking at. Lots. But as you see, beginning of the day, the tribes kind of got to choose teams, not necessarily tribes. They never said tribes. They just said teams and played some challenges. Now, I was expecting some big twist too. So I had seen this coming. Des, were you surprised at all that these weren't actual tribes that they chose and just teams?
Are we talking about the very beginning?
The very beginning.
Yes, that shocked me that they got to pick themselves, and they were all kind of like, what do we? And then after that, it was go. They just, okay, the person next to you was your tribe mate then, or teammate. Yeah, I thought that was a really interesting way to start, because they were so confused. I would have been confused too. So, yeah.
I wouldn't know what to say. I'd been like, what's going on?
It was chaos for a little tiny bit, and then, I think once the first group formed, the other people just figured it out.
And then they threw them in water.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you've been there for 4 minutes, go get wet.
Yeah.
I mean, Des and I did that too.
Yeah.
That's awful.
Yes.
It's a quick catch-up race on Survival Challenge. They're like, hey, jump in the lake right now. Now, Steven,
good luck.
Are you still seeing that these early teams are still like in effect? Are people still voting together, you think?
Well, I mean, they had a huge effect through a lot of the games so far, right? At least with when we saw the initial tribe formations, the Holata tribe, the Gray tribe, was 7 to 8 original yellow team members, and that was kind of crazy to witness them all pull together like that.
Right.
Were you all strong team yellow when the first separation happened? Or not even, let's go back to when they first chose actual tribes. Schoolyard pick. So all the contestants are given a random parchment. 3 of those parchments are special, like captain choices. So we have Jake M, and then we have Kelsey, and we have Jamie being the captains of the schoolyard pick. Do you think that put a really big target on them?
I don't feel like it did.
I don't either. I think it might have put too much pressure on them.
Mm-hmm.
Because of how unbalanced some of the teams were. I think sometimes you think you're setting yourself up for success and really you're shooting yourself in the foot when it comes to those types of schoolyard picks. And while these tribal kind of colors, I think, are still playing into effect, it seems to be what everyone is talking about almost constantly right now, are all of these divides. I don't think that the captain portion of it or how it was picked is what is being talked. It's talked about. Like Stu is a great example. There was 7 from this original, and then he was alone, and he was like, I mean, the writing was on the wall. Even if these girls were telling me they're going to do a big move here, the writing's on the wall for me, and I'm just hoping. And I think it was kind of a testament to him. The part that we're not getting to see is Stu has been there to give every single player who has been eliminated from the game like a hug and a pep talk. And he has been there to like invite them and is like, hey, it's okay. And I think that's a testament to who he is. And probably somebody who wanted to keep in the game.
Yeah.
Because it did get very tough with all of the rain and the weather. And there was a lot of negativity and a lot of people who were just done. And you could tell. And that energy is contagious.
Mm-hmm.
Desiree, how did you deal with the weather our season?
I hated it. We were wet like the whole time, and it really does bond you though. It bonds you with the people immediately. Like, our first tribe, Ago, we were huddled like sardines in this little tent, and I had a puddle right in the middle, and I'm like, like, this is who we are now. Like, I told my husband last night, I'm like, yes, the weather sucks, but this is going to bond them, and this is going to bring them together in a way that, maybe nice weather really doesn't, because you are stuck in that shelter together, and you're trying to just stay warm, and yeah.
So, Steven, same question to you. How was the weather like for you, and how did you manage?
I've never been so cold in my life. I mean, so like the Tower War Challenge day, I think, no, it was the first immunity day because we had the tribe shirts. I was just wearing my jacket over my shirt, and I was just shivering, even the jacket on. And John Mateo is like, Steven, you need to take your jacket off. I've just refused to. I'm like, no, I'm so cold. I have to wear everything I own. I'm not letting my shirt be wet. So I'm going to wear my jacket over my shirt. But yeah, no, kind of what Des said, like, that very first night, I was just like shivering just so hard. Laura just laid on top of me. That was her solution. Yeah. That's what got me through the night. And the next day I was like, Laura, wherever you want, I'll do.
She grabbed me. We were together the third night, and she just literally grabbed me and just held me. And I was like, oh, okay. Hi.
Pat was so cold going into today. I was definitely wanting him to ask when whoever got eliminated for their jacket. I was prepared for it to be.
Yes.
My husband had towel. Can I borrow your jacket? And I was like, is that even allowed? Can he ask for somebody's jacket? Is there this really strict clothing requirement where he can't ask for someone's jacket?
I think it would only make sense. You have to be resourceful, right? And if you're leaving to go to shelter, you can be like, here's my stuff. Here's an extra
You,
sleeping
you
bag.
just
per
leave
se.
it behind strategically, and your tribe picks it up. Like I left my blanket behind for my tribe to take after they voted me out. But maybe I
Those
shouldn't have.
blankets, though, like this season, they took their blankets at check-in, so they don't have blankets this year. When we went, we got blankets, but they didn't do anything because as soon as they got wet, it was
Right.
just you're just now surrounded in a wet blanket.
You have
Katie
to have
and
the
I
right
brought
blanket.
waterproof blankets, and
Yeah.
they banned them the year after because of us.
Yeah.
They were too good. Like, this
Yes.
is survival challenge. This is the hardcore stuff.
Scotch guard it or something.
Even though some of our teammates did that, it did not work.
Oh, it didn't?
Mm-mm.
Fair enough. I don't have any desire to be out there with wet blankets. So, yeah, but I will say I think that the weather just in general is playing a big part in the vibe and the environment. And then just, being hungry, and it's day 4, almost day 5 now that they've been out there. You can tell on the instructions that are given, it's not registering for people. We got to see it yesterday a lot. John would give instructions, the challenge would start, and people would go, wait, what am I doing? Like, it just isn't clicking for them. And that was actually hard to watch as, like, rooting for people on, because you're like, what are you doing? Like,
It's very hard.
do you yell at them to fix it because they're spectators? But that's not what's been happening, and so they're not getting, the spectators have been very quiet, very just spectatorial, versus, like, I think the most rowdy we got to see is when Madison was playing that idol, and that's like the loudest we had seen any of the crowd out. And I think that's kind of interesting as well. That I think it's just everyone there is in love with the game.
Speaking of the food situation, Des, what did you think of their merch feast?
I was so mad. I didn't get a merge feast. I'm waiting for my merge feast. I thought it was awesome that they got it, but they got so much food. Like, I just kept looking at it, and I was like, we had 2 glasses of lemonade and a whole, 10 minutes. Like, we didn't have an hour and a half and a feast. What the heck? But I think it's great. I think it's great for them because that's really where you can sit down and get to know people for the first time. Like Landon was saying, I haven't been with these people. I think Landon hadn't been with anybody. Katie hadn't been with anybody, had she? So that was the first time they were sitting down and talking to them. And it's crazy to think that that's the first time, but some games just happen like that.
We were talking about camp life and struggling through the weather. Here are some quick little pictures of what their camp life was.
Yes.
No team seems to want to hang up a tarp. Well, here's a tarp here over the fire. Maybe
that's gonna do nothing.
Yeah, I just couldn't believe that the tarps were on the ground, not above them. But I guess what didn't rain that night, right?
No, that
Luckily.
did not.
No.
Last night I did see a tarp that was up a little bit, and they were crammed in it like sardines.
They were all
really
under
reminded me of my Ago camp. When you built a shelter, was it up higher or was it like a lower tarp, Steven?
We had 2 tarps, and they were a couple feet off the ground, kind of slanted. We kind of found a tree area we were able to get them down, so we were able to have all 8 of us beneath the tarps at night.
I did hear from one of the contestants that the ground is so wet and hard. It felt like sleeping on wet concrete.
Yeah.
And you were better off just standing or sitting on a log. You would probably be more comfortable that way. And then it was bone chilling. Like, you could just not get to a point of comfort. And then it was interesting today. You heard almost everyone said it was the best sleep that they got last night, even though it was the worst weather. I think they were just dead. And the weather and the pressure and just made everything. And they're like, you know what? We're just going to sleep through it. We're going to sleep through this lovely rainstorm. And it's the way. I'm like an hour away, and it has rained here literally all day long. We saw it in the feeds. It has not let up. And it's like 65 degrees right now.
Yeah.
So it's not a warm rain. It is chilly Midwest weather.
Yeah. I will say, I think the lack of sleep hindered me more than the lack of food. I was so disoriented just because of the lack of sleep. I mean, obviously, both play into that disorientation that you were talking about, but I think for me, it was definitely the sleep factor. I don't know. Both definitely play into it. So.
We talked a little bit about somebody playing Idle. So voting wise, I am looking at this graph here, and I am so surprised to see how much the vote is split at almost every single tribal. It's never like unanimous until we get all the way down here, like 5 rounds in.
There's only 4 unanimous votes, and so because I was tallying up, I think in our season, Des, we had like 9 unanimous votes in the pre-merge, and last season was 7 unanimous votes in the pre-merge. And so it's interesting that there's not that many going on.
There has been a ton of idle talk because of how clues were given for idols. And so you kind of got to watch it per take, or you could replay back and kind of come up with your perception of what was happening during some of these challenges. I think that they expected there to be more idols in play, and there was a lot of idol fake out conversation. So we see it for Landon for a few rounds. Mm-hmm. That played a huge factor in that Fa'ala tribe.
So he was making it up.
He was what?
So he was lying about having an idol earlier.
I still don't know, to be honest. And maybe he just didn't use it. I don't know.
Yeah, and a lot of these things too, we're all just like kind of speculating. Like we're watching and we're seeing everything we can see from the perspective of Sam and Kirk and what they can tell us. Like we won't know the whole story until we talk to these contestants after it, and even then, we'll see even more in the episodes.
Yeah, we just know there were like idol clues that were given out, and they're giving them back to players in the game. The fire tokens are being thrown back in the game. So the reason why I think all these votes were being split so much is because that fear of idol has been there literally since vote 1, when you saw it when they did that 5-2-1 split with Stu, Christina, and Morgan is who ends up not going, but that's who I think Stu votes for. I think. And it was a fear from literally the first tribal of the game, and it has not stopped.
No.
And that kind of played into it. Imagine if that first round, Christina wasn't put essentially on the bottom of her tribe, maybe that flip on Morgan doesn't happen, and it's a completely different game the next round. We don't know. But
I love all the idols that have been played, though.
They've been done so well, too.
So well. And they've all been played, like some people were saying that Keiwoo did not need to play his first idol. But everybody knew he had it. So for him to get rid of it was a great thing, take the target off your back a little bit. Yeah, I just love how they're all being played.
So that was our first one.
He could have had 2 idols at that point, right? He could have already known how that the tribal podium idol works. So he's just like, yeah, I'll burn one.
Exactly.
That works for me. Why not?
Right.
So that was the first one. The second one was Madison's idol, right?
Yes. And that was a unanimous vote for
it was.
So
it was.
Yeah.
The coolest part about Madison is, at least for me, is her family is out there. So her mom and dad came out there as well, and they're sitting there and they're watching all of these challenges. And I actually like got to hang out with them for a little bit yesterday. Like I'm hanging out with people's parents. It's very weird. They're such lovely people, to the point yesterday they were like, if we never got to come back and this is all we got to see, we will be fans for life. Like that's how involved, and they've been to every single tribal. And not only are they rooting for their daughter to succeed, but they're like rooting for other players. Like, and it was so fantastic to see just the environment. And so I think just having her parents see her play an idol correctly. And she was very calm in that tribal. I was really surprised because for me, the round prior, I had saw her name whispered to be the vote. I was like texting Kirk. I'm like, did you see that? Did you see that? Not trying to point it out. So her name was out there that round, which I think is when
Kelsey went home.
Kelsey. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So her name was there. And then that interaction with, what is her name? Kelsey and Christina, or Kelsey, somebody, that little argument that kind of happens. It was just interesting to see. So good for her. And then we get another one right after.
Yeah.
I mean, is that the most iconic move of the season so far? Is Kevin getting up, grandstanding his speech, activating the podium idol, and then playing it correctly for someone else?
I think
It
that's
was so
the
great.
move of the season. I think the coolest thing we got to see is Kelsey trying to activate the podium, because it's what we had been begging for round one. You know, it was talked about in the beginning, like, why is nobody talking about that? Why is nobody talking about that? And then she tries, and you can hear it. At first, I thought John was just kind of like shooing her way, but he's like saying, I'm just waiting to see if you have, like, how are you trying to play it? Do you have anything else to say? And I was like, oh, he wasn't just telling her to sit down and shut up. He was like, how are you going to do it?
Yeah.
Activate
How
it.
are you going to?
I'm giving you the opportunity.
Okay.
And she was like, okay, I mean, just imagine if she said it by luck.
Oh my
She was just like, fire is life.
I'm not
And he was like, congratulations. And
you activated it. She'd be
and
like, what?
we all would have been like, stop. And then to think, like, who did she vote for that round, and what the game would have been if she just said it out of pure, because I mean, fire is life isn't the craziest phrase to say in a Survivor game.
No.
It's
It's
not
a pretty
like
regular phrase, actually.
not like you clucked like a chicken 4 times or something ridiculous, you know? It's like, yeah, I think it would have just been so. That's probably been my favorite moment of everything, is just her getting up and trying and fighting till literally the very last second. That and Jamie's like drama-esque. That tribe was so cracked. Like, you didn't even want to, like, when we're filming or whatever, I would be like, Kirk, let's go to the other ones. Like, you don't even want to watch them. There's so much tension.
It was
Jamie,
like watching a bad car accident, you know, like you can't look away, but
you had to look away. It was so like, it was so tense. It wasn't even like a fun tension, because, you know, like sometimes it's fun tension. Katie and Christina were having nothing to do with it. Jamie would talk and they would just turn their backs to him, which I would be pissed at. Like, look at me, I'm talking to you. And they would just shut him down, and he would just keep. And I was like, oh my God, go to another tribe. Go to another tribe. This is so messy. And that plays into this. Like, their whole messy thing, it impacted the other tribes.
Really?
1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. Their arguments were not in the tribal holding area. They were in front of everyone before challenges. It impacted the dynamics of people who were working with. Because as you learn, like, Katie had connections to other people on the other tribes from past games. So that was impacting how things were going. Oh yeah, it 100% impacted other tribal votes.
Wow.
And then we just see it too in their play style when they come to challenges. Like, obviously the communication is not there. They were not working well at all.
No.
They lost, what is it? Looks like 1, 2, 3. Yeah.
Well, and at one point, Katie quit. Katie says, "I quit the challenge. Just vote me out." And the food eating one, because she couldn't
Oh, the
do it.
squid.
She was done, and she said, "I quit. Vote me out." And I think she was either showing it just to like use it as a way to go, because she wasn't going anywhere. They had the numbers, but she didn't even want their tribe to try at that point.
That was a horrific challenge to watch, by the way.
Yeah.
It
Like,
was. Yeah.
Landon's strategy, if I'm just going to throw it up immediately after eating, I'm just like, why am I watching this? What am I doing with my life? Please, no, Dustin, I see what you have on the screen there. What are you doing?
Okay. Well, here's a picture of Steven on his eating challenge
no.
that I won't share. It's okay.
No, share it.
Go
It
for
needs
it,
to
go
be
for it.
There we
shared.
are. So, Steven, what did you have to eat?
Kimchi, a giant plate of kimchi, and I can't do spicy. And so, like,
Oh my-
I've eaten kimchi. I've been to South Korea, but like, I just can't do kimchi. I just can't do spicy food.
Kimchi is so delicious, though. Oh, we
I
lost
know, and I'm
Des.
just like the wrong person to draw that slot. I was like, oh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you had to draw the slots?
So you had to slot yourself from 1 through 5 without knowing what it was. 1 being easy, 5 being the hardest, and I was like, I'll do 3. 3 was kimchi.
So they did get to slot themselves here. They got to see what everything was, and they got to strategize and put themselves in the places. So that's the other part why I was like, I don't really understand why, if you kind of know that this is a thing for you, why not go for one of the easier? But I guess you also don't know how your body.
And then the white team was just so at a disadvantage because they were losing so many times. So they had to sit nobody out. So they had to go with all their players.
Which I still thank God I sat out of that challenge.
You missed out, Des.
I did not miss out on a thing. Oh my gosh.
I will say you can buy that ranch dressing soda online.
No, thank you.
You can buy it and try it yourself if you ever feel like suffering.
Nope.
Yeah, it was definitely hard to watch while you're out there. And there was like a 4-person lead, and then Katie just couldn't do it. And like her husband's in the stands, like helpless, and you just see her. She didn't stop trying, but she was definitely saying, "I quit." So
I enjoyed when I think Sam was doing the taping at the time. She focused on Megan's. I think she said her father was there, taking pictures of her trying to eat these nasty crickets or mealworms or whatever, and Dad is there like taking pictures, and she's like, "I can't do it." Or so it was very nice to see like how competitive they were.
I will also say the yellow team was very smart after. I think there was mealworms out there.
They were trying them.
They ate a bunch of them for like nutrients. And they're like, "Will you let us?" And they were like, "Yeah." And pretty much their entire tribe took like a huge handful for more food. And then there were more challenges throughout the night. So maybe it was. They're like, "We're not going to be hungry. We're going to have at least, there's got to be some kind of protein in these things." Right.
So I have a question. The L team ended up winning all 5 challenges and then just had to vote someone off of de facto. Was it a good strategy? Because we saw in Des and my seasons that Tatanka 2.0 tribe won all the challenges that day 1, and then like
the exact same thing's happening.
The exact same thing happened where like they just put such a target that immediately the Tocho 3.0 just took out all the Tatanka members they could on their tribe just because they're like, well, also they had a strong alliance at the time. But I mean, Des, do you think that's a good? Do you regret that strategy ever? Do you think they should have thrown a challenge?
I mean, I don't like when people throw challenges. So that would have been really tough for me to do. But I'm wondering if we know sabotages are in play in this season. And I'm wondering if that is playing into why some of these tribes are losing. I don't know. I
know for the wood one, the wood portion of it,
right?
Both of those, like, their Gold did not do that. Stephanie
both threw their bundles into the water.
Yes.
What are the other sabotages we know of? Did that affect their placement in finishing?
Well,
you know, I
Maybe
think
maybe in placement. So I do know that yellow or gold did do one of the sabotages, and they got second versus first. So
and
that didn't.
Fala was on Kwu, and they lost that one.
They weren't
Right?
gonna. They didn't lose because of that wet
No,
part.
they
Though. They
didn't.
literally lost because their logs fell
Their
over,
fire,
and they
yeah.
didn't. They were winning. Like there's
Mhm.
absolutely no reason why Hala won that competition.
But Kwu was one of the people that could have helped build that fire. So had he not chosen to go in the water, you know, he could have been there building that fire.
Well, Kwu is what ends up knocking it over. So Kwu is back
Well.
at the thing, and it's tipping over.
Well, then
and
Kwu lost it
and
either way.
and it was like he was like, it's too hot, I won't do it. And so rather than just kind of like using another stick or figuring it out, it fell over. And
Okay.
the real reason why it was going the way it was is they didn't block
Right.
anything where the other tribe was blocking, and so their fire went to the left versus up.
Mhm.
And that wasn't part of any kind of sabotage. That was them
Right.
being lazy or tired or whatever
Yeah.
portion of it. Trying to think what the other part.
I've
the
heard that Holly had one, but I don't know what it was.
So wait, stupid question. What are these sabotages you're talking about?
So they are finding notes saying if you do this during this challenge, you will get a note to an advantage or to an idol or anything like that or something like that.
Gotcha. Okay.
So one of the sabotages was during that fire challenge, you could swim out and get that extra bundle of wood.
Mm-hmm.
And if you did that and dropped it in the water,
Gotcha.
you would
Okay,
get
this makes more sense.
this note to a clue.
To an idol
or to some sort of advantage.
And one of the other ones was, if you remember, the water where they had to fill the containers.
Yes, that's what it was.
If you fill it up, and knock it over, but it had to be full.
Mm-hmm.
You would get a note. And when I tell you, so many, and I was like, why are they still knocking this over? It's not, and that ended up being why. And that's where the Gold Tribe did have that sabotage on theirs, and they were ahead by a ton. And then they ended up getting second versus first, which whoopity do.
Okay.
I will also say, and maybe it's kind of hard to see on the live streams, as far as challenge goes, if they were throwing a competition, it would have been so obvious. When I tell you this gold team was murdering these competitions, like it was not back to back at any point. It was like whatever, Tawamunga won, and 25 minutes later somebody else, but maybe not 25, but a solid 3-4 minutes later, it was almost embarrassing to watch for the other tribes. Like it was just so, I don't even like, they were just in the zone and they were going, and then they had the momentum. I think the real difference for them and why they didn't even think to throw a challenge is because their tribe had so many from all these others. They were the one tribe that didn't have a majority. Really, it was like
Four blue, 3 red, 1 yellow.
Yeah. So they didn't have this overwhelming anything. And so you could hear it throughout the day, also in other tribals, and just in talking. They thought that group was fractured into a point where they didn't know who was going to go home.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think for them as a player, you're like, well, I'm not going to go to tribal because it's going to be me potentially. We don't know what's going home.
Mm-hmm.
And then they never had a reason to strategize. Do I think it sucks today for them? Absolutely. And then that brings us to this kind of reward challenge that we ended today on, where what are they thinking? So,
well, here's the thing though, like the 4 golds that are left, or the 4 yellows that are left, all are on this reward, and people are thinking, why do that? Why separate yourself? But if they already know that they're on the bottom, Why not? Why not go to the reward and try and get as many advantages as possible?
Do they stay away from their tribe all night?
No,
Are they?
no.
Oh, okay. So they'll still have time to go back and whatever and figure it
Yeah.
and make up a plan. Okay, maybe that's not awful if they can come up with a plan. They did get some information, it seems, going into it. Like allegedly they got some information out of what's going on, so maybe that'll play in tomorrow. But I think it's dumb. If I win an advantage, I want you to know, I'm gonna throw out my strategy here right now. If I ever win an advantage and I pick you to come with me, it's because I hate you. I hate you, and I don't want you to be able to talk about me when I'm not around. Just know that I hate you.
See, and I would at that point, I know I'm getting pagonged off. I'm taking the people I want to take. And we are going to search every inch of that place for an idol or a clue, or we're just going to talk smack about the other people. We are just I'm going to have a good time.
That's probably smarter.
But
I'm doing it with my enemy. Come on, Betty. I hate your ass, but we're flipping this table.
I don't have like a filter though, so like I wear my emotions on my sleeve, and I could not sit through a dinner with a fake happy face, like trying to kiss somebody's butt. Like I just couldn't do it.
Oh, I'm not doing that. I'm gonna be like, Des, get up. When you're gonna be like, why? I'm like, get up. I'm looking under your chair for an idol. I hate your ass, but get up. And you're going to be like, why did you bring me? Because if you're going to talk junk, you're going to do it to my face right here. You don't get to do it back with all your friends. You're going to do it right here.
My strategy is very opposite to both of that. I gave up my reward and I gave it to Kirk. Kirk was on the other team. Kirk got to meet for the first time Kathy Sleckman. I won Kathy as a reward. The first time that I know, right? And so this relationship really is because I won the reward, and I, being so nice, I had Kirk go meet Kathy and have hamburgers and find an idol with Kathy. So really, like, that relationship was because I gave up my reward.
That's so sweet.
Mm-hmm. Just a reminder to Kathy, since we know you're watching, it's only for tonight, honey. I'm back tomorrow. All day yesterday, she was like, I see you cheating with your new wife. I see you replaced me. So I'm back tomorrow, okay? So keep them warm tonight.
The aggressive is it Mentos or like whatever she's handing the players they get out makes my day.
She what'd she call them? Calming mints?
Yes, the aggressive calming mints that people are giving out is great.
They're not. She's like, their breath just stinks and I have to talk to them. Okay, so that I guess is my question. They don't have toothbrushes?
Mm-mm.
Why? I don't know.
Because we don't get luxury items. We have to suffer.
You can take the grass and like, did you do that at all? When you played, you
I
could
just didn't
take
eat
like
food.
the grass or like
and then I ate kimchi.
And
it just all went south from there.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. Jack had kimchi on his shirt, and when we voted him out, it was Rachel who suggested it, but she later told me that she was like, he has kimchi on his shirt. I just can't smell him anymore.
No deodorant, no toothpaste.
One of the reasons he got voted out.
And this is now Jack, who went on to go play on The Circle that starred on Netflix too. So
his kimchi eating abilities are only rivaled by his makeup abilities.
Mm-hmm. Oh, poor Jack.
Well, hopefully he'll do better. He's one of the famous contestants on Live to Give this season. That's happening in Minnesota in about a month or so. So he'll be playing for some charity.
2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Not a month. It's like next week.
The 2 weeks is very close to a month, I would say. So
brushing your teeth. No, it wouldn't.
What?
The comments right now says brushing your teeth ruined the experience. We got a toothbrush with a donation and I threw it out. Absolutely not. Personal hygiene is literally important. I said it 100 times. After my last appointment, I said I would never go anywhere where I couldn't shower every single day. I couldn't imagine. I mean, I can. I've done it. But like by choice, not brushing my teeth.
Toothbrush or toothpaste is my luxury item going into a game if I ever have to choose. So
I don't even need the toothbrush. Just give me the paste, and I'll figure the rest of it out.
Stacy brought toothpaste to the very first game I ever played, and after the gross food challenge, I begged for some, and it was glorious.
And I'm not sharing. Y'all should. No, I'm just kidding. I probably would share. Be like, do you guys want some? You stink. We're gonna use it as deodorant at this point.
Mhm.
Like,
You're bringing one of those
like the
giant
gross
tubes
one.
of toothpaste is what I'm hearing.
giant toothpaste for everybody. That'll be my way to communicate. Hey, do you gotta go brush
I'll
your
just
teeth?
wait
Let me
until
walk with
Kathy
you.
gives me the mints. I don't care.
That's cool.
So any favorite challenges so far that we've seen that we really like?
Oh.
I always have PTSD when I saw it was, I think, round 10, the final
The
13,
maze.
the slap puzzle challenge, the challenge I slowly miffed myself. Yes, that I enjoy watching that challenge and cringing at how terrible I was at it.
The key maze was fun to watch. It was hard to watch.
Yeah.
That was pretty embarrassing for some of the players, but that was fun to watch. I liked watching the fire making.
That's my favorite.
Even though the rules, I think they called it a lemon rule, like the rules got changed halfway through because they just sucked. We were like, I actually made a joke after. Sorry, I dumped my water on the logs before they started. And Prod was like, really? Is that why they couldn't do it? I was like, no. I was being funny. But they were trying to come up with any kind of excuse to figure out why. And then they were really, it was done poor. They were given a box of matches halfway through. And they would like light a match and throw it off to the side and light a match. And I was like, have you guys never lit a box of matches on fire? Like, haven't we all done that? Or am I just old? Dump it out and light it on fire and poosh. And you're just like, nope. And that wasn't a rule.
Thing.
I asked. But they were tired.
I definitely love the fire making challenge. I loved I think it was one this morning where they had to get those big puzzle pieces and shove it in that.
You've done that challenge.
Huge puzzle. No, the puzzle, and then they put a platform on it
to stand on.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that one.
Yeah. That was fun to watch.
I was thinking of the water slide puzzle challenge that you did.
Oh no, that one will give me PTSD. That was like the start of our downfall. I do not like that challenge.
I like the concept of the mirrored puzzle. Like you couldn't see the puzzle, but you were mirrored. Like that was a new concept that I had never even thought of before, or seen on anything.
What else?
They've all been fairly.
The one that Evan did. Shout out to Evan. He it's that drop the ball challenge. So they had to go through the maze of things and bring the ball and then do the 4 balls. That was fun.
I like the puzzle. It was one of the individual challenges. That puzzle wasn't a regular shape. Yeah. We had created a interesting shape puzzle too, like that before on a game, and it totally messed everyone's minds up. They're like, "Whoa, how does this work?" So it was really interesting to see how such a puzzle can be used differently.
And remember, their minds, like you said, their minds are getting slower and slower. So, like, even to put a puzzle that's not a regular, like, square shape. Their brains are probably like, what? Like, what? I can't figure it out right now, you know? That's interesting.
I have enjoyed a lot of like the twist section of it. I like how they did the swap. The numbers are challenge buff, and then you picked a partner, and then they did it again, and it did it until they were just like 8 of 8. I like that versus kind of the random luck thing.
Yeah.
Because I think it just puts it kind of in the player's hands. But again, Are they thinking that far ahead? Are they just kind of like, shoot here? Like, you don't, like, there's so many things that go through your mind in that moment. And I think it's interesting to see kind of how things were divided and split up. But it was fun to watch and kind of see people's thought process and then make assumptions off of what they're thinking.
Any favorite voting? I enjoyed the 3 tribals at once. That was kind of fun to watch, even though it was a huge loss. I really liked the 3 people that got voted out, and it was a huge shocker at that time. But that was kind of an epic twist in that aspect. So,
right. I enjoyed, the tribals that had the idols, the Maddie tribal and then the Keiwu tribal. And those
even
were
the Kelsey.
and the Kelsey one. I enjoy those. So I hope we get to see a little bit more of that. I think on a walk tonight they said, was it Tiffany said that right now there were not any idols in play. But maybe they find one tonight. I don't know. We'll see. I'm kind of hoping for not a pagonging tomorrow. I'm hoping they kind of mix things up.
It would be smart too, because eventually you're on the bottom, so you're going to need at least somebody to flip. Like, you can't just pick off all the yellow and then be like, okay, now don't do me.
Right.
Like, eventually it has to be you. So use those relationships, or at least try to. You have to find like that happy medium balance. Don't just pick them all off. But that's hard too, to kind of, in a 10-minute period, plan out. Steven, you said you had a question?
Yeah, I wonder if any of you had any insight to that merge vote, because I kind of look at them like I don't know what's happening here. Mainly because we don't really have information on who voted who, but I was hoping that, like, I don't know, Destiny, you maybe had some more insight into that.
I know that they were really worried about, and again, it comes from that joint tribal that they all had. A lot of cards were laid out that other people, specifically Gold, might not have seen. So Holly was able to very much say, these 5 are sticking together. This is where it's going. And then the more people talk, they're like, the only person I have is Patrick, or the only person I have is here. And so with that, the fear is that Benji, Pat, and someone else, and Keiwu, I think, were all sticking together, and they weren't going to be unbreakable. And then when they got into the merge, they were reconnected with people that they had bonds with before. And specifically, I think what ends up happening here just is it goes back to that rock vote and some information that comes out from the rock vote that I think really plays into play there. And then Katie plays a Sela vote. And so really it's able to protect one of her allies. And I think that's kind of where it all comes from. Because, at that point, Katie had just lost her number 1 in the game. And so I think that's really what's kind of played out.
It's interesting, though, because Katie now is supposedly working with Keiwu.
They probably were working together the entire time. So
she just didn't want him to have that other number 1. She wanted to become more in that spot because she had lost her.
She had lost hers. So now you want to balance it. At least that's my assumption. I don't know. Okay. I'm making an educated assumption. I do know that the whole group was very worried about that core sticking together. I think that plays a big part into how the votes went, with Grace leaving, because Grace wasn't one of the glue there. It was the others that were very much, and Benji was very much the ringleader. So him leaving when he did, I think really threw a wrench in it, because they didn't have to stick together. Benji was very much giving them pep talks. We got to see it all day 3. He was like, we're sticking together. We like everyone, but it's us, bros. We got it. And you got to see it all day. And then he's gone. And that's kind of when stuff
happened
for that specific group. And so that would be my guess on what their logic is. And the other part is Katie has some other game connections with players in the game. They've played other games together. And I guess her husband's also in the community. So they know people through her husband kind of playing. And so she's got a bigger reach than I think anyone is giving her credit for. And that could have played into it as well.
I guess it's just surprising because I really thought people would turn on that group of 5 yellow players from the very first tribe arrangement to take one or two of them out before doing their own business.
Right.
I think the part to remember off of that is while they were yellow all day yesterday, they all came from different groups.
Mm-hmm.
So they had all separated previously and had worked with other people. And so when you're going in there, you kind of look at who do I have the potential to work with? Oh, I've worked with Jake in the past. I could potentially work with him again. Mm-hmm. So when it is so fractured, why try that when you need them later? That's my thought process on it, because nobody, until it was their strategy to save their own ass, people were not worried about that gold team. They were worried. They thought they were fractured and divided in different groups. And because they'd never gone to tribal, they didn't have any trust. And I think that's a lot of why you hear people kept saying, well, I was left out of the grace vote, or I was the only one left out of the grace vote, because she was using it as strategy to kind of save her own butt. And I just don't think that'll end up. I think it became part of the game because somebody needed it to become part of the game, not because it's a true fear. If that makes sense. Now it's a true fear. Now you hear the 4 that are saying they're going to stick together because they don't have any other choice. But I think they were pushed into that by the events of today, where I don't think it would have been that if somebody didn't need to say that to try to save themselves.
Do y'all think it'll be a final 3 or final 2?
I think it'll be a final 2.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Because they merged at 11.
All right, so
they merged at 13 to the final 2. Had 11-person jury last season. That was crazy.
I know, but like, usually don't you try to have an odd number on jury?
You could still have an 8-person jury with the final 3.
Well, it's funny because that's what Adam just asked that you had just asked as well. So yeah,
I still think it's going to be a final 2.
You just get a Laurel vote is what happens if it ties it and it ties with the 8 jury.
Yeah.
Now I took a a cast assessment draft with some other people the other day. So here's how it's turning out. So I have Holly and Mandy still on my team. Dion has Devin and Landon. And then Matthew has Chris and Katie. And then Nicole has Tiffany, Kevin, and Jake S. So from our final people here, folks, who are we rooting for? Who do you think is gonna make it?
Gosh.
I have no idea.
I don't know.
I have hope. I have hopes. I don't know a winner prediction. I have no idea what tomorrow is going to bring. I think there's so much. I want to see Jake at the end. Obviously, I'm forever going to root for him. I want to see Holly do well. I personally don't want to see Katie at the end, just off the vibe, and that's not fair to say because she is a lovely person, but the quitting comment was hard to hear yesterday, and it did bring like the energy down, and so that was hard environment wise, but other than that, I think everyone has a great story to tell.
I think, like Adam says, I don't think they let Kevin get to the end because Kevin had such a great move right there.
Yeah.
That just puts a really big target on him. I really like Tiffany's energy and everything that she's done. She's been super excited to like talk to the camera and just like fill us in as much as she can. I think her personality is very captivating and very positive. But then again, Holly and Mandy are both in my cast draft. So if they get there, I'm very well happy with that. So
Devin has been so under the radar, so that might win for him too.
Yeah, Chris has been under the radar too. And I don't know if it's just because they were kind of on that gold team, or Jake. I'm thinking Jake. I don't know. Like, we haven't seen as much from them. So for me, it's hard to root for them, but I want to root for them because they're the underdogs right now. I don't know. I'm very conflicted.
It is going to be interesting to see what happens tomorrow after after everything, because they do have to kind of figure out, like, are Landon and Katie gonna come together after all of the drama that they had? Because it's really
Right.
only them that's
And
left.
Holly picked Landon
Mhm.
for when they formed teams.
Yep,
those
the duo
two teams.
portion.
So I'm wondering if they're gonna be tight somehow.
Well, then Kevin just played an idol to save Mandy.
Right.
So she has to feel some kind of loyalty to him.
Exactly.
You have, like, she has to.
Yeah.
So does that bring Kevin, Holly, and Mandy together? And then it's Devin, Landon, and Gold against each other?
Yeah. There's a lot of gameplay left.
Mm-hmm.
It will be interesting.
And we will see this gameplay live tomorrow, starting at 8:00 a.m. Central Standard Time. So that would be at 9:00 Eastern Standard Time is when we pitch most of our times for StreamYard and everything like that. It's been a pleasure tonight, everyone. It's been super fun watching it and doing nothing this weekend, like we all pretty much said. All we're doing is watching these live streams. So
I'm going out there tomorrow, so if you need
Enjoy.
something, text me. I'll try my best. I don't know what I'll get, but I'll try.
And thank you, folks, for tuning in with your fantastic comments throughout the night. Steven, thanks for joining us. Des, thank you, and Destiny as well. Super great chatting, and best of luck tomorrow. You can catch it at Facebook/Survival Challenge. And from all of us here at Live Reality Games, thanks, and have a great night.
Bye.